Welcome to Bar None Ranch.
No!
This audition for a new show for Nickelodeon called Hey Dude came up, and I remember reading what the sort of idea of the show was, and it was about a bunch of teenage kids working on a dude ranch as their summer job.
Now we have to have our picture taken with a bowling trophy.
Oh, is this about the Employee of the Week contest?
I originally auditioned for the role of the other girl, the character of Brad. Her name is Bradley. She was supposed to be this Grosse Pointe, Michigan girl, who privileged, and I remember going in and auditioning for that.
Forget it. I concede, you win.
And I thought I did a really good job. And then they called back and they said, you know, we found another girl that we really like for that part, but would Christine be interested in coming in to read for the other part, the girl whose name is Melody?
That is so great! What is it?
And Melody was sort of the fun-loving, everybody's friend. She was sort of the lifeguard, peacekeeper of the group. And so I went in and auditioned for that.
And you're,
I'm Melody.
Melody, yes. And you,
I teach swimming. I'm the lifeguard.
Swimming, very good.
When we auditioned, part of what they did in the audition was just talk to us about what our interests were. I think they were sort of developing the characters and what we did and what we, you know, what our hobbies were. And at the time, that was the one real job I had before acting became my real job. And I was a lifeguard.
Can't you just set up her own stupid chair? That's Kimberly for you. Never lifted a finger a day in her life.
Not Baywatch style where you're on a beach and you actually have to save lives. Like, I was a lifeguard at a country club in, like, suburbia, Pennsylvania. But I did have to train for that. So that was something that they sort of incorporated into the storyline. And that was the part I ended up getting. And it wasn't a long, tedious process. I think because it was a new show for Nickelodeon, and this was their first sort of episodic series. And it just felt like we were all a part of something very new. It was sort of like learning along the way, and we're going to try this. And so when I got the part, it was exciting. And I knew it was going to shoot in Arizona. It was just to go shoot the pilot, and I was a senior in high school then, so I was 17. At that time, I was applying to colleges, and there was a prom coming up, and there were all kinds of important things in my life, my regular life, that were like deal breakers.
These things are gorgeous.
Well, we're about the same size. Feel free to borrow whatever.
Thanks. Oh, and you can borrow anything of mine.
Probably won't need to. I'm all set.
Would I be able to graduate with my class? Would I be able to come back and go to the prom? And that, I remember that took far more precedence than going to do the show. And even I remember the day I was flying to go work on the pilot, it was the day of the homecoming at the school, and that was another thing, that I had to be there for that, and then I was going to fly the next day.
Okay, come on in.
Hey, Danny. How are you?
Sandwich!
No, we are not going through another summer of that again, understand?
I just feel like in hindsight now, looking back on that, those aspects of my life, which remained important, sort of came above the other stuff, and if it could all work out, that was great and exciting for me, but that stuff became the priority, and I still sort of look at that now as a mom and a wife, and that's still sort of how I approach work.
I sure get bored around here.
You do?
Yeah. Nothing but gorgeous scenery and beautiful horses everywhere you look.
We shot the pilot on a real dude ranch, which was just a beautiful hotel sort of in the middle of this gorgeous desert where they rode horses and they swam, and it was spa treatment. You know, it was like that was the idea. When the series got picked up, they built a set sort of on land that this dude ranch actually owned but was unused. So they built the bunkhouses that we stay in, and yet there was still one intact house, like that was a caretaker's house or something that we sometimes used. But they were mostly sets built in the middle of this desert. We, the cast and crew, stayed in a hotel. For me, that was sort of my college experience because I'd never been away from home for a period of time. And even though we were sort of technically assigned guardians. There were two of us that were underage, that we were 17. David Lasher, who played Ted, and I. He was from New York, and I was from Pennsylvania. And they had people sort of assigned to sort of watch us. You're away from home, and we had rental cars, and we were not rebellious at all. I feel like in hindsight, they really got a good group of sort of rule-following kids.
Melody. What would Honest Abe think about that?
As a girl, when they talk about the freshman 15, like you see that, thank God, captured in 65 episodes of television, is Christine's weight fluctuations. Of course, enhanced by the gorgeous khaki pleated shorts and bandanas and the polo shirts. Very Southwestern, which people still to this day, like, who will come up to me, remind me of how great the gear was. It was like any color, hugely bright shirt that my character would wear with pleated, belted khaki shorts and sneakers. Oh, a look that I don't miss.
Ted, you're not wearing your bowler hat.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Mr. Ernst can ask me to wear it, but he's got no authority to make me. I'll do whatever I want.
David Lasher and I were the only two that were still in school. There was a little boy named Josh, who played Buddy on the show, and for the three of us, there were tutors that we would have set, designated hours of time. But by the time the show was picked up, I had already gotten into college. I was in the end of my senior year. David, I think, was in the end of his junior year, so I think he had another year of tutoring after me. It was those last few months of your senior year, and you're sort of planning college at that point anyway. So I finished. I did officially graduate, and I went back to Pennsylvania and graduated with my class. I remember I could only go back for a day, and then I flew back to work.
None of this is in the script.
All you have to do is admit that, whoa!
We did 65 episodes over the course of 2 years, so we weren't doing one episode a week like a lot of shows. It was a 4-camera show on video, mostly outside. So, and this is nothing against everyone who loves Hey Dude, but it didn't have the highest quality look.
Oh, wow. Wow is right. She is something else.
No, she's Kimberly Carroll.
Who?
Working with the group was like working with brothers and sisters because we lived together, we ate together. I mean, we were all so close. In that same sense that there were periods of time where some of us couldn't stand each other, and there were periods of time where some of us had crushes on each other, and some of us were not speaking to each other. I mean, there's an episode, David Lasher and I weren't speaking at this point, and who knows why? I mean, we were kids. We might have both liked each other for a little while and then didn't, and so by this point, it was like a non-speaking situation. They did a blooper reel or outtakes or something, and you see a couple scenes where we're doing it and we're laughing and like hitting each other, and then they yell cut, and you just see us like walk the other way. So there were those periods of time, and then there were moments where we all got along great, but it really was like working with your family.
Quiet on set. Action.
The directors were fantastic. There were only two. And one was a guy from New York who had worked a lot and done films and was respected, and he somehow managed to get into this little crazy world of ours. So his take on the shows and he took it a lot more seriously, and in a cool way. I mean, I feel like, we probably gave him a hard time, but I think in hindsight now, it was a great experience to see early on when you have a director that cares and who really is invested, even if it's just Hey Dude material. He took it seriously, and he would really kind of put us to work in the sense of like, well, what do you think your character, really getting us there. And it was almost like an acting exercise. And his name was Frederick Keller, and he's still working a ton out in LA, and he taught me a lot. And the other director was his name is Ross Bagwell Jr., because Ross Bagwell Sr. was the head of the production company that ran the whole show, and he had the total opposite of like, this is just fun, who cares, let's have fun. And it was like two completely parallel, like we were doing the same series but completely different experiences on each of their episodes. And I think that was like a fantastic lesson with both, because I think there's room for both in all of my work at this point. Like, I feel like obviously you have to take it seriously, it's work, but it's still, not curing cancer. I mean, it's still the entertainment industry, and it still is about having fun. So I felt like I learned a lot from both of them. I don't think I felt like at the time I was learning anything, though, because I was still a 17-year-old girl who was like just I was very self-conscious, and I wanted to do a good job, and I wanted to be reassured, and I feel like, all of this stuff now, 20 years later, looking back, there were huge lessons for me moving forward in show business.
Oh, I had to play go-between for Ted and Charlene. Ted was too busy doing Danny's work to see her. That's a first. Ted too busy to see a girl. Anyway, I went to see Charlene, and she gave me this for Ted.
Looking back on all of it, and to me, a lot of it was the excitement of something new and being in something fun and still being a kid, because I still think that was an important thing for the production, and everybody still wanted us to sort of remain kids. I never in a million years thought that 20 years later I'd be sitting here because it's going on DVD and that anybody would even care what I have to say about it. But I think it's awesome that they do, and I just think, again, that speaks volumes for how it was all put together. And I really have to credit Nickelodeon, because they stayed true to, Nickelodeon now, because I have a little girl, and it's very different. And, they're keeping with the times. Years later, I remember doing the first Kids' Choice Awards, because Hey Dude was on the air at the time, and they had their first annual Kids' Choice Awards. And the cast of Hey Dude presented an award. And now I have a 9-year-old daughter who the other night said to me, "Oh my God, we have to tape the KCAs. We have to tape the KCAs." And I just, like, the way it comes full circle, and to just see what those awards are now, and to see, like, my husband hosted them a few years ago, like, it's so star-studded. Like, Nickelodeon has been transformative, I think. For Nickelodeon to sort of have taken a risk and made Hey Dude at the time, which was, experimental, I think, at best. I really do, because I think they'd never, to take a bunch of people and put them on a dude ranch in Arizona with some video cameras and then have the show air for a couple of years and create something truly unique. And I'm not saying it withstands the test of time, but for it to have stayed in people's minds, I think is a really cool thing. And I think that sort of opened the door for them to other really cool shows, and so it's just something that I'm really, really proud of. And there's no question that had I not done it, my life path may have gone another direction, because if I had gone to NYU and stayed in New York, I don't know that I ever would have moved to LA right then and there. I might have, but the way the sort of stepping stones led me there just felt like the natural course. So I'm eternally grateful to Hey Dude and to the Hey Dude DVD.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Maybe my kids will watch it, but I think they'll watch it and say, like, what is this? They might laugh. And that's always funny to me, too, when my kids will catch a little something. Like, they caught a little bit of me in the Brady Bunch, and my son is like, that's you? But your hair is yellow. They don't care that much. They don't really care. There was never a lot of feedback. The show was cable, and it aired, I think it reran a little bit during the week. Like, it would come on once a week and then rerun once or twice. So it basically only aired for those 2 years, and it wasn't about syndication or selling it to another network to run. So it just sort of stopped, and then that was like a chapter in my life, and I sort of moved on and worked, and the Brady Bunch and like big things came my way, and then years went by and years went by, and I remember. I'll vividly remember this because this changed the impact of Hey Dude on my life. Was I was at a play and someone turned to me and said, "That was Paris Hilton," and she was a huge fan of the show. And this is like, it made me laugh because I realized the little Hey Duders out there have grown up, and I'm actually out with them now. Like, I'm actually in the company of those kids because now they're old enough to be in places and working with me, and sometimes working as my children and things. And but now, so it's almost like there was a decade where nobody had ever heard of it, and then came the people like out of the woodwork. I'll be checking out at the grocery store line and love to use Melody. You know, it's almost crazy to me how much I get it, but it's funny because I feel like it resonated.